Hi there, this is Doug Pugh, and in honor of my wonderful and recently departed teacher, Darwin Wolford, this week I'm going to do some spotlights on his wonderful music. Dr. Wolford was my very first composition teacher. We worked together at BYU, Idaho, and I cannot even begin to tell you how much he did for me. And so this week, to honor him as he passed away this past Saturday, I'm going to highlight a piece of his each day and break down some of the incredible harmony that he used when he composed. So for today, I'm going to select a number from his book, 7 Sacred Solos for Medium, High Voice, and Piano. Now, this is not his most popular book, but it has one of his most exquisite pieces in it. What he's done here with this book is he's taking famous hymn texts and composed new melodies, almost like art songs, with those melodies and piano, but to words that we're familiar with. So the one I'm going to focus on is his setting of "Oh My Father." So this is that, for those of you who are LDS, know this famous text by Eliza R that we have in our hymnal, "O my Father, thou that dwellest in the high and glorious place," and so on. So he composed this. It is a extremely beautiful art song based on this text. And so I wanted to highlight this opening phrase because for my students who are watching, there's so much going on with the harmony, and if we keep going, I'm afraid I might overwhelm you. This might overwhelm you just this much. He had such a command for this rich, wonderful harmony. So let's begin. Now, Darwin had a way of starting his pieces as if the conversation was already going. You know, you see the key signature, like, oh, E major, okay, we're going to start in E major on the 1 chord. That is very rarely the case, especially in his hymn arrangements when it comes to Darwin's work. He begins on some other chord and gradually takes you to the tonic, but it's like, oh, where are we? We're not sure until that first tonic appears. So it's always kind of a fun little treasure hunt at the start of most of his pieces to figure out what key you're in. You can tell you're tonal, you can tell you're in a key, but at first it's like, which one's tonic? Let's figure that out. So he begins, we are in E major, but he begins on the 7 diminished chord. And let me just play this excerpt for you, and then I'll come back and break it down. So here it goes. Love this piece. I convinced him, actually, as we were working on his oratorio, to include this as an orchestral interlude in his oratorio, because he was looking for a centerpiece where the orchestra could take a moment and contemplate on the message of the piece. And this, I was falling in love with this particular piece at the time, and I was like, you know what, this might be the best piece I've ever heard you compose, and I think you should use it as the orchestral interlude. And he did. And so it was fun to sit with him and work on the orchestration and see his decision making. And I made a few suggestions here and there, some of which he actually followed, which was kind of fun. I got to participate. But man, I just love this. Okay, so back to what's happening in the harmony. So we start with the 7 chord, and you think 7 would go to 1, but instead he has this descending bass line from 7 to 6 to 2, and then he does it again, 7 but in a new position, to 6 in another position, and then 2. So that's not exactly harmonic progression chart allowed kind of stuff, but because of the linear nature of the bass line. Stepping down, stepping down. It works beautifully. Back to 7, 7, 6, 2, with some non-chord tones in there. He's always looking for emotion in the inner voices. Then we get the 2-7 in root position. Then we get the 2 half diminished, borrowed harmony, and then a beautiful 5-7 with a 13th, which is the opening note of the voice. Oh my! And then maybe the most delicious one chord you can imagine. This is a 1 chord with a major 7th, the D sharp and a 9th, the F sharp and the 11th, A, but there's no 3rd. There's no G sharp, because the G sharp would kind of get in the way of the 9th and the 11th. So we get, oh my Father, which allows the 1 chord to feel unresolved, because you get Father, which is hanging, it's not Father. So the voice has not yet had a tonic, but we know we're in the tonic because of the left hand. Father. It's like, oh, but don't we want a 1 chord? Thou that dwellest. That feels somewhat resolved, but it's on Sol, the B. And then Sol becomes a sharp 9 on top of this amazing G sharp chord. So we have B sharp and B natural. Oh, baby, is that juicy. That is one of those quintessential Darwin harmonies that just gives you this intense yearning. And with the vocal parts going, oh, my Father, thou that dwellest in the high. It's like we're yearning to reach those heights and still have not had a tonic resolution in the melody. We got a tonic right here, but it's quick. In the high, he holds the high note for a while, and glorious. So, oh, sorry, wrong note. We get a few more tonics, but look, they're so quick. And then we end the phrase on the note above tonic on a 5-7 with a little linear chromaticism, and back to 1. But still no tonic until we finally get a downbeat tonic over there. And by the end of the full phrase, you get the voice resting on the full tonic. But boy, this is just delicious, delicious harmony, and the way he's combined the yearn for God's presence with the yearning in a medium high voice is really excellent. It's really well done. I wish he would have written an opera. I don't know, maybe he did early on in his career, but he would have written some beautiful stuff. Well, that's all for today. Darwin's Oh My Father. This is still available for publication at jackmanmusic.com. I highly recommend you go grab it, especially if you're a singer. That's a great book of beautiful, really art songs using the texts of LDS hymns. It's a very special book that very few people know about, as far as I know, the last I checked anyway. All right, tomorrow I'll be back, and we're going to look at a particular favorite that he actually dedicated to my wife and I. See you tomorrow.